The Zone Coverage Podcast Network.
They may be drinkers, Robin, but they're also human beings.
Hell yeah, let's get Stinko.
From the newly minted Burnsville studios, this is the Giles and the Goalie podcast. My name is Giles Farrell. Next to me is Ben Remington.
Hello.
We are watching this with some vintage WWE on in the background, as expected here in the Burnsville studios. I believe it was the Royal Rumble of 2000, is that correct?
Yes, this is the 2000 Royal Rumble from Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Historic.
Oh, yeah, that is the Garden. Nice. Very nice. Ben, have you been enjoying the Super Bowl week from afar?
As all Minnesotans have been enjoying the national media types crying about the weather. That's been rather enjoyable to see. And, it's negative today. That's a lot of fun. Everyone complaining about how it's not going to come back because they can't tolerate this kind of temperature, and so that part's been kind of fun. Seeing the Skull Chant somehow live on 2 weeks after its funeral has been frustrating, but that's just me.
Darren Ravel is a knob. Your thoughts?
Yeah, he's not. The tweet that was infamous from him. He's not wrong. They're not going to come back here. I remember when the Super Bowl was in Jacksonville, they complained about the weather. They complained about how cold and how rainy it was in Jacksonville, Florida in February.
Don't you hate pants?
God, that Super Bowl is probably 10 years ago now. But it just kind of gives you, if it's not some kind of tropical, beautiful destination, they are not interested. So, whatever, it's fine. Minnesotans got their one time in the sun, and haha, the Vikings didn't play in it. So, I'm happy.
Funnily enough, that Super Bowl in Jacksonville was the previous installment of Eagles v. Patriots.
That's right. Yep. So that was 15 years ago then. 14 years ago.
Noted wide receiver Troy Brown, game's most valuable player.
He was, for being a slot receiver / slot cornerback, that guy probably didn't get enough credit.
Okay, that's enough football. Listen to the Zone Coverage football machine if you want more in depth.
Yeah, don't worry, they probably do.
Talk. I don't know why they didn't have me on this week. I know an insane amount of Super Bowl trivia. They should have had me on.
Really?
Yeah. She can vouch for that.
That's a thing for
you?
Okay.
I can't remember basic tasks during the week, like get item X at the grocery store, or make sure to do this article by this day, but I can tell you everything you need to know about Super Bowl 15. So
we literally just had a conversation about this about a half an hour ago. Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah. My head is so filled with useless sports knowledge and
I can relate.
Things in life I need to remember, I can't remember. So, yeah. All right. We have a lot of hockey to cover as we...
Do we have to?
Well, we're going to quick roll through the games, as last week we had a little unconventional show, and
sure,
we didn't get to go through the recaps and whatnot with our All-Star cast, which was very fun to put together. I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did. But we have a few games to go over, the first of which was that Monday, 2 podcasts ago. The Minnesota Wild played the Ottawa Senators, the Tire Fire Ottawa Senators.
The Fightin' Melnicks.
The Movin' Melnicks.
Yeah, that too.
A 3-1 win at XL Energy Center for the Minnesota Wild.
You mean they won at home?
Yes. Did you know the Minnesota Wild are very good at home?
I've heard they're very good at home.
Zach Parise gets on the board. Jason Zucker, Mikhail Granlund add goals later in the game to seal the win for the Minnesota Wild. Then they had a couple of days off, and then they went to Pittsburgh before the All-Star break. And, oh boy, what a humdinger that was.
That was on the road, correct?
Correct. 6-3, the Minnesota Wild lose to Pittsburgh, and the three were window dressing for the Minnesota Wild as I believe it was 6-rip before the Wild put any kind of anything together.
I didn't even actually catch that game. I was in California.
It was 6-0 before 3 goals in the third period from Stahl, Granlund, and Jonas Brodin, who had one taken away earlier in the game.
Well, glad he got some garbage time goals, and he needs the garbage time points.
Jonas Brodin has 5 goals this year. Did you know this?
That's, higher than I thought it would be.
Actually, it might be more than that now. Did he have a goal this week? Let's look it up. Negative, Ghost Rider.
Okay.
He has 5 goals and 10 assists this year. Maybe window dressing some numbers for a trade later this summer.
We can only
hope. So then the Minnesota Wild go into the All-Star break on that sour note. And then, obviously, the All-Star game in Tampa, Florida. Eric Stahl, Minnesota Wild representative. Your thoughts on the All-Star game? I think you kind of made them pretty clear in the All-Star show.
Yeah, and that I didn't watch it. Yeah. I didn't. I had plans with other friends that day and stuff.
Sick guy of friends brag.
It's one of those things where I had a little get together with a couple of friends from way back that I haven't seen in a while, and I'm going to do that 10 times out of 10 versus watching the NHL All-Star game because let's face it, it's the NHL All-Star game. So, I heard it was a entertaining game. Like it's 3-on-3, it damn well should be. I mean, I don't even know how many goals were scored, but I'm sure it was about 1 every 30 seconds. So that's kind of what the NHL is shooting for, but whatever, it still doesn't do much for me.
I weirdly enjoy watching it. I know it's an unpopular opinion, but I like it.
No, that's fine. I don't think there's an issue with people you're not mentally ill like the people that watch the Pro Bowl. That's just like if you admit to watching the Pro Bowl, there needs to be a 12-step program for that. Like there needs to be some kind of psychiatric evaluation. Be like, you are so desperate to watch football, you will literally watch the worst product that is put out in American sports just to watch that sport. No, but as far as the NHL game, like I said, it doesn't do much for me. But if you watch it, if I could have watched it had I not had plans that day, I probably would have. I don't take any issue with that. It's kind of for me.
You didn't want to see Connor McDavid in white pants?
With the famous overgrown diapers that we thought we would only see out of the Kings Stadium series.
We thought white pants were gone, but oh boy, they came roaring back.
At that point, just wear Cooperalls, right? Like that would be a better look in the All-Star game. I feel like, and it's not like you need much padding in the All-Star game. It's the freaking All-Star game.
It's as if the NHL should really bring on some jersey consultants for big events like this.
Right. Well, at that point, like if you're gonna go 3-on-3, there's no contact. It's 3-on-3. Just like act like it's a shinny hockey game at the rink. Have some poor soul wearing jeans. Have everybody wearing hoodies and toques, and just have at it like that.
So I thought about this during the game, or the weekend actually, as they announced San Jose was going to host the All-Star game next year.
Oh, sweet! When I'm not there.
Yeah. You're there all the time now, but next year you'll be far away.
Next year, nope.
But yeah, next year it'll be in San Jose, and I mean, really, the NHL is really kind of committed to having the All-Star game in warm weather venues. And as Minnesota is kind of front and center of the sports universe here this week, do you think the NHL All-Star game will ever make a return to the frozen tundra of Minnesota?
I think it will. The XL, we've been really blessed. Hashtag blessed.
Hashtag.
Yes. With an incredible venue. And the XL has really not aged. It's really a beautiful rink and an incredible venue for a lot of things, not just for hockey, but especially for hockey. And so I think given all of that, I think that they'll come back eventually. I think that there's definitely, a time where they'll push hard enough. That'll be the next big event. I don't know that the Target Center is going to host an NBA All-Star game anytime soon, so that'll be the next event held at in the Twin Cities. The MLB All-Star Game will probably be a little while yet, since we just had one in 2014.
Yeah, it'll probably be 20 years before.
Yeah, probably just like it was last time. It'll probably be that long. But yeah, I think Excel will host one again. At the very least, if and when unfortunately that place is replaced, I mean, I'm sure it'll get one before it's shut down, which probably won't be for a while, quite honestly, because it's aged so well. But you could see in 20, 30 years, maybe the joint is a little more run down or whatever, and maybe they give it one final hurrah, like we've seen with so many aging arenas.
I don't know. I worry that it might not, but maybe I'm just being a little too worrisome in that regards. But
that it might not be replaced.
The All-Star Game might not come back here. Like, it just.
I think you want to focus on warm weather. I think it still will at some point.
The argument on warm weather cities kind of sticks in my head, and I certainly hope that the All-Star Game will come back. It was fun to take that one in.
Yeah, I didn't get to do much with that one. I really would have really like another shot at that.
And as I noted on ZoneCoverage.com 2 weeks ago, the 2004 All-Star Game jerseys were really the last great ones.
Well, they were last.
Otherwise, not good history of All-Star Game jerseys.
Right, and not only that, they were also one of the only ones ever that were team-centric.
Which I noted is a huge mistake for them to not do.
Well, look at the MLB All-Star Game, or I guess you'd call it the Home Run Derby jerseys,
right?
Because they wore their jerseys during the game. But it's such a such a cool thing that they're able to do that. And the Futures Game for the MLB All-Star Game is also local-centric kind of themed jerseys. I just don't know why they don't like to do that. It was such a good look when it was here. Like, you knew. The instant you look at those jerseys, Minnesota's hosting the game.
Yeah.
And they could totally pull that off in other markets. I just don't know why they don't. Like, it seems to me like, it's a chance for other, like, the jerseys now are so sterile. They're so blah, and they're so bland, and it just, like, it would have been cool to have a little bit more of a lightning touch to those jerseys this year, aside from just the color scheme. Because aside from the colors, you had no idea the game was in Tampa.
Right.
Throw a palm tree at it. Throw a lightning bolt in there. Like, would it kill you? It would have added some much needed personality to those jerseys.
So, now that was the All-Star break. I spent the weekend up in Grand Marais, which was very fun, and a lot of
sober weekend.
No, no. When 75% of the fridge was full of beer, and then coming out of the weekend, there was none left.
Oh, okay.
That paints a nice picture of what was consumed.
Sure.
But coming out of the break, the Wild were opening a 4-game stretch against teams who were currently in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And on our YouTube game preview, I made a bold statement that I said the Minnesota Wild need to get at least 5 points out of the possible 8 in these next 4 games. Otherwise, that might sink their playoff chances.
Yeah, they've got a little work to do now, huh?
Yeah, as we're going to get to here. Wild in Columbus out of the All-Star break. They win 3-2 in the shootout. And Zach Parise, the shootout winner, with some silky smooth moves.
That was a popular tweet from you.
Yes, it did very well on Twitter.com. People like GIFs where hockey players do nice things.
Yes.
Which
I feel like the NHL should take note of that.
Yes.
I mean, they did hire Steph.
Yes.
So that helps.
That was a good move on their part. A rare good move.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Zach Parise, shootout winner. Chris Stewart also a shootout goal. He has become their shootout specialist.
There's a lot of crap talked about Chris Stewart, and I am 100% on board for almost all of it. But the one thing you got to give the guy, he's got a pair of hands. He's got some silky mitts, and if he's good for nothing else than a hired gun in a shootout like TJ Oshie, as long as you've got him dressed, for Christ's sake, you might as well use him for what he's good at, because he's not really particularly good at the fluid game of hockey. So, You might as well give him a shootout.
And that makes it more maddening that you see him have flash offensive skills like that.
It does.
And then you see him play, in a team 5-on-5 setting, and you're completely left with, what the hell is this?
Right.
As so many of us, quote, unquote, bloggers point out on twitter.com nightly. So yeah, that was the first win for the Wild coming out of the break. So there was 2 points. And then the Vegas Golden Knights come into XL Energy Center Friday night after a big win in Winnipeg, which was quite a game to watch. If you took in that 3-on-3 overtime between the Jets and the Golden Knights, you were left saying, please God, let there be a playoff series of that. Just injected into my veins.
Yeah, those are two pretty high-octane teams that would be a lot of fun to watch.
The Minnesota Wild smoke the Golden Knights 5-2. As
at the time, were they Western Conference leading?
They were.
Okay, that's what I thought.
They were at the time. They still are.
They still are, yeah, by a point. But I was wondering on Thursday or Friday, were they?
Eric Stahl, Charlie Coyle, the Big Omelet, Tyler Ennis, Jared Spurgeon, and Eric Stahl, again, are your goal scorers. Eric Stahl, up to 22 goals this season. He's getting close to that 30 mark that seemingly very few Wild players have ever gone before.
Mm-hmm.
And then Eric Holla scores a goal.
Yeah, drink.
As you should.
Yep.
But no, a solid win for the Wild on Friday night, and you were you put it best on the post-game recap. As you said, this really makes the teams play on the road more maddening when you see them play like this against one of the best teams in hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just completely come out on the road and, pee down their leg. Speaking of peeing down the leg, the Wild closed out their week in Dallas on Saturday night. And 6-1 later, the Dallas Stars were victorious on Retro Night at American Airlines Center.
Where they wore the classic Stars jerseys that they moved to Texas with. God bless them.
Yeah. I'll say it before, and I'll say it again. Loudly and proudly, you, Norm Green. You just about called it on the Vegas recap.
I unfortunately
and they
did.
came right out and did just that. Actually, the Wild played a decent first period with the Stars, but then the first goal of the hockey game, I believe that was Matthias Janmark, deflected in the goal, and that really broke the dam open, and that really did the Wild in. And Ryan Suter said straight after the game, that first goal, we just...
It was a backbreaker.
Mailed it in after. They were sunk. And
yeah, and it was tweeted during the game, Brandon Molesky was like, wonder why the Wild... Or he didn't say anything about it on the road because, he noted the matchup on the second goal, I believe, the third goal, where I think it was the second goal. And it was against the Cullen, Stewart, and Foligno line or something like that. And it just underlines what I talked about. We did a zone coverage roundtable with you, Heather, and myself on Friday, where we answered some questions about the Wild and obviously, kind of trying to diagnose their struggles a little bit. And I said, and this is something that I absolutely believe to be true, it's the reason why they're struggling on the road this season as opposed to last season is they don't have the depth anymore. And so the matchups are that much more important. When you can dictate the matchups at home, you can kind of hide those boat anchor players that you insist on rostering, and versus on the road, you're at the mercy of the other coach. And as good as Bruce Boudreau is, you can only hide Marcus Foligno and Chris Stewart out on the ice so much before, a team that has as much offensive talent as the Stars is going to take advantage of it. So, I think the road struggles as opposed to last year it's 100% the depth on this, especially on the forward roster. That's just what it is, and that's why they've struggled. And is there a little bit in their head too? I think absolutely there is, and that's certainly a part of it. And you noted how the goaltending has struggled on the road as well. I think that might be kind of a little bit of a byproduct of how the team lacks depth, and certainly there's probably more high danger chances when said players are on the ice, and that certainly doesn't help the goaltending. So this is kind of a overall depth issue, I think, is the road woes.
No, you're exactly right, and again, comes back to sacrificing so much skill this offseason,
right,
for guys like Marcus Foligno, and keeping Chris Stewart, and woof.
Yeah, and Tyler Ennis has done okay enough to maybe justify rostering him in a third to fourth line capacity, but he's
not at his salary.
Well, yeah, exactly. And to your point, I mean, he's no Jason Pominville. Jason Pominville was a guy that you felt great about having on the third line, and you wouldn't mind having him on the second line. I don't think that we're not near that with Tyler Ennis. I mean, we're okay with him being on the third line, not thrilled, and he's probably better off being a fourth line guy if you're going to roll four lines and not pretend that the fourth line is a checking line anymore, because it's not 1996 anymore. So,
right, the NHL very much a skill game, and these GMs who seemingly can't get over the fact that sandpapery guys really are becoming not useful to your team anymore.
Right.
Someday it'll get through, maybe. So yeah, after my bold statement there, the Wild are at 4 points, and they need one more next week as they open the week at the St. Louis Blues, a team they are chasing in the standings right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it is on the road, so I am not overly confident about the Minnesota Wild snagging a point out of the St. Louis Blues, although it could be said that the Blues not exactly playing overly great here in the last month and change.
Mm-hmm.
But just looking here, it looks like they've won 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
So not terrible.
It's not terrible.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not confident, but the Wild are still holders of a playoff spot. Here as we record, they are up 1 point on the Colorado Avalanche, who could be sinking real quick here in the standings as they're without Nate McKinnon for 2 to 4 weeks. And then the Calgary Flames, just a point back now, and the Anaheim Ducks. So there is no margin for error here for the Minnesota Wild. And that's why I threw that out there, as they needed to get 5 out of 8 points on this 4-game swing against really good hockey teams. But also this week, the Wild come home. They play the Arizona Coyotes and then the Chicago Blackhawks. And really not to overlook the Coyotes game, but the Coyotes have actually played really well here as of late.
I think their early season woes were a lot due to health, and they have gotten a little healthier lately.
They're not winning a lot of games right now, but they're playing a lot better hockey, and so don't sleep on them. But realistically, that game against Chicago could be a backbreaker if the Wild are able to win in regulation. The Blackhawks might not be able to survive that.
Yeah, Chicago is, talk about on the ropes. As much as the Wild are walking the tightrope, I think the Blackhawks are holding on by a couple of fingers. So it would be very nice to actually stomp on the fingers a little bit and actually get them that much further to being ruled out of playoff contention. I think you and I both were not fans of the moves they made this past offseason. They were, much like the Wild, there was a lot of pressure for them to kind of shake things up a little bit, and they did. And they shipped out Artemi Panarin and what little defense they had left in favor of bringing back Brandon Saad and bring back some stalwarts from the past, and it has not gone well for them.
Well, good news, as we saw on Twitter.com last night, the Minnesota Wild making a acquisition to bolster their lineup as Jimmy Fallon gets a uniform from the Minnesota Wild.
He's a Rangers fan. Come on, he's He's a New York guy. He's a Rangers fan.
Everyone has a price.
Let's not try to rope him into our unfortunate sadness here in this state. I don't care if he had breakfast in Champlin. He's still not a Wild fan.
He declined my invitation for tachos and adult beverages.
It's his loss.
I don't know how he can turn that down.
I mean, he just doesn't know the ways of the Bold North.
No. Everyone's getting a fine taste of the Bold North here today as they walk outside and their nostrils instantly freeze.
I thought you were talking about our grain belts.
Well, that too. I love a good grain belt.
Yes.
Premium. Just trying to think of the Wild as a whole right now, and I'm still just not impressed. And as I'm gonna do a series on this week on Zone Coverage, highlighting all the other Central Division teams and what they're gonna be looking to do at the trade deadline, and state of those prospective teams.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the Wild, the state of the team is, as we said earlier, good at home, very, very bad on the road. And, we are more of the belief they should just do nothing at the trade deadline, but realistically, we don't know what they're going to do at the trade deadline.
Right.
Chuck Fletcher has gone into the bunker seemingly for the foreseeable future until Craig Leopold tells him to pack it up and get the hell out.
Right.
What are your thoughts here as we're 3 weeks out of the trade deadline?
Well, we talked about this in the roundtable, and the Fletcher contract issue is really kind of putting this up in the air. And our editor, Brandon, asked if there was something this team could do, a move they could make, and I think there is, but I don't know if it's a move we want to see them make. I think the only move that this team makes where it gets markedly better or something is if they do make a big splashy move. Like, let's say they jettison a Jonas Brodin, they jettison a Charlie Coyle, something to that effect, I think would be the only thing that really changes the way this team is. Could they trade for a bottom six forward? Sure. Would it help the team? Sure. Would it change things a whole lot? I don't know that it would.
No.
And maybe calling up Luke Cunnin might help, but it's not like he's, lighting the AHL on fire or anything like that, and he's been hurt, and even when he was up in the NHL, he didn't get a whole lot of favors with his line mates, but he wasn't really tearing it up then either, even when he was on a good line. So I just don't know if there's a whole lot they can do aside from Chuck Fletcher making a pretty big move. I mean, he can't trade any of the big names. Their contracts are too big. But he can certainly trade, someone out of that Coyle, Brodin, Dumba, Niederreiter, lot, Granlund. And I don't, depending on the deal, obviously, I don't know if we want him to do that.
I would not trade Matt Dumba, just saying. As he is fifth on the Minnesota Wild in points with 28.
Uh-huh.
And as I threw out earlier this week on Twitter, the year of Dumba is alive and well. I am accepting apologies now and forever on Twitter.com.
He's on pace for 44 points. That's not bad for a defenseman. I mean, up when you get up in that 50-point range for defenseman, that's kind of rarefied air for a defenseman.
He had 34 last year, so he's on pace to
to crush that. So
go over that, and he's already had 9 goals this year.
Mm-hmm. And his comes in spurts when we realize that, but
it comes in spurts when I wager outrageous things.
No kidding. Yeah, don't remind me.
Do you still whisk like a tornado?
Yes, I do. When it comes to making delicious sauces, you have to. Ross doesn't understand that.
There was an egg incident this morning.
It wasn't... Okay, so a little bit of egg splattered on the cooktop when I was making an omelet when I flipped it. All right. Wasn't an incident.
Is it a big omelet?
It was a 3-egg omelet, so it wasn't like a...
It was similar to the dropping of the egg.
Jamie can tell you I was having similar issues while cooking bacon and eggs this morning. Before I cooked the eggs, I put a little butter in the pan.
Sure, of course.
And I put it in too early as I was cooking the bacon, and I overlooked that, so the butter started to burn. So I was yelling a few choice words, and
Right, that's what you
then
do.
as I was flipping the bacon, I splattered grease right on myself. So
Yeah.
that feels good.
That'll happen.
Another few choice words. So
Yeah.
it was a fun breakfast experience this morning.
Oh yeah. No, I before our engagement party, I was cooking sausages in a cast iron pan, and I wasn't wearing a shirt, which was super smart. And she counted 35 blisters on my chest and stomach after that, because I had a couple of pops that sprayed me pretty good. So
I was about to say that I felt bad once when I reached into the oven to pull out a pizza once, and I didn't pull the oven door all the way down. So as I was pulling it out, the pizza, my arm scraped the inside of the door.
Oh yeah,
So
that feels great.
that felt really good, and I almost lost the pizza as a result of the shock. Pizza came halfway off
would have been the worst part.
pan. Yeah,
absolutely.
but I was holding on for dear life. The pizza was salvaged, and everybody had
You
an
sacrifice a
enjoyable.
few arm hairs,
Yeah.
a little bit of skin. It's all in the name of
so-
pizza.
Cooking is dangerous, folks.
It
Let's
is.
put it out there. So, I'm sure people would love to hear more of our culinary tales, but we will move on to our Bruce Boudreau quote of the week.
Hi, this is Bruce Boudreau. I don't see how in Toronto that they're calling it, unless it's a guy they just pulled in off the street that hasn't seen hockey before.
If I were the fans, I'd be booing even more, because they pay good money for this.
If you want it, don't just think you want it. Go out and f***ing want it.
The Super Bowl this week here in the Twin Cities, obviously.
Yeah.
No, Minneapolis is not the capital of Minnesota. Let's get this right. CNN. It's St. Paul.
St. Paul is not a beautiful neighborhood in Minneapolis.
Yeah. St. Paul is the best neighborhood in Minneapolis. As both you and I have said many a times on this podcast, St. Paul is the preferred city of the Twin Cities on this podcast.
Yeah, of course.
We are a St. Paul podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, the Super Bowl in town this week, obviously, and weirdly our invite to record from Radio Row must have gotten lost in the mail. And
Yeah, I think maybe we just missed the cut, I think was the
Yeah,
deal. They
we
have to draw the
just-
line somewhere, and we just need a couple more iTunes reviews, and we would have made the cut.
50 iTunes reviews.
Right,
We're 3
right,
away.
yeah, we're pretty
So
close.
if you can get us there, we can maybe be at next Super Bowl. But so Bruce Boudreau was asked about perhaps going to the Super Bowl, and he said on paying for a Super Bowl ticket, which last time I checked 3 days ago was sitting, at $3,000 if you
Yep.
wanted to sit in the far reaches of U.S. Bank Stadium.
Right.
Boudreau says, "I wouldn't drop $8,000 to see the Pope."
Well, on the flip side, the Pope isn't really all that exciting, I don't think, so.
He just waves.
I mean, the Pope Mobile is cool and all, but yeah. So I'm with Bruce on that. I see his vantage point. And also, I've never had any kind of inkling of wanting to go to see the Super Bowl. Have you at all? Did you consider trying to finagle a way to get Super Bowl tickets?
It's weird how things always work out when big sporting events are here, and I always am fortunate enough to go.
Sure.
Like, I've
The
told the
Stadium
story of
Series,
how I
All-Star, yeah.
was able to go to the NHL All-Star game on a random occurrence of a coach's wife giving out a free ticket to one of my relatives in the arena.
Sure.
But never did I think I was going to pay that amount of money to go to the Super Bowl. In the
Ugh.
back of my mind, I thought something weirdly always happens, so maybe I could somehow, find a free ticket and go, but not the case. I'll be watching with some friends here on Sunday, Cruddy Sunday. But I can't fathom paying that much money, and I mean, our podcast doesn't make, fat stacks like that yet, but
We're not flush with cash.
yeah. It never crossed my mind to pay that. Like, I just looked just to see, what the prices were.
Right.
So, StubHub sees like what you're looking up, and then they spam your email with, hey, don't forget to buy this game. And it's like, no, I'm not buying. Like, I'm just curious.
Right.
Like, otherwise, I don't really look at Super Bowl ticket prices because it's not here. So it's like I never really give a hoot to look, but I was just always curious what it was running for. And
yeah, I just don't think it would be something I'd be ever really interested in, the Super Bowl at least, because just like the presentation on TV is just so much better,
right?
Than the game, where it's just kind of like this corporate enema of sorts, and it just I don't know, it just never really is interested me. It doesn't hurt that I'm not a big NFL guy.
Right. Football is great to watch on TV. Like, you can see everything way better, and as you said, like, they make the presentation so good. And hockey is way different, where I love being in the arena. I don't go a whole lot, but I love being in the arena because I can see a whole lot more.
Right.
Like, the TV doesn't do justice to what you would want to see, and you would hope that at some point, like the networks could kind of figure out, alternative views to watch hockey games like you see in other sports, but that would involve some critical, rational thinking on the NHL's part, and they're not one to do that. So
not really.
And anyway, that there was the Bruce Boudreau quote of the week, and the reply to this tweet from Michael Russo was also good, as a priest replies to him, and he says to that tweet, "I am a priest and a Minnesota Wild fan. I could take him," referencing
to see the Pope.
Take Bruce to see the Pope,
Sure.
and that.
Who's this priest that has all this pull here?
Yeah.
What's he doing on Twitter? More importantly.
Yeah, Twitter is quite the unholy place.
Right. 2018, folks.
There's your title.
Yeah.
Twitter is quite the unholy place. So that's the Bruce Boudreau quote of the week. Now on to our wager.
What's your bet, sir?
Ah, yes, the bet. Okay, what the hell? It makes very little sense to bet when you cannot win.
So to no surprise, the wager this week is going to be Super Bowl related.
Yes.
As the big game here in Minneapolis. We probably have to pay royalties now for saying Super Bowl on the air.
I wonder how that works, because obviously, like, radio types have to avoid it like the plague.
Like, advertisements really have to, like, you go to, like, Cub or Target or something, and they're like, stock up for the big game. Like, they can't put, like, Super Bowl on anything.
It's weird to me that they, like, the corporate sponsors of the Super Bowl can't use that within the confines of a grocery store or even on the radio/internet ads. They could go with Superb Owl, like the transit tram at the airport did. I don't know if you saw a picture of that, but some obviously confused graphic designer didn't. He had two trams side by side, and instead of doing super on one and bull on the other, it was Superb Owl. That I think that's a way around it that hasn't been explored enough, to be honest.
Yeah. God, that Superb Owl thing was just great.
It really was.
Oh, man.
It really was.
What a great thing. Anyway, so the Super Bowl, obviously, big game, not Super Bowl.
Sure, right. Yes, the big game.
Whatever, zone coverage
Superb
can
Owl.
foot the tab. We'll probably have to dip into the football machine funds to pay this, but Patriots, Eagles, obviously the Patriots coming off a come-from-behind win against the Jacksonville Jaguars in the AFC title game, and then the Philadelphia Eagles are coming off a blowout win over a team of the Bold North.
Yeah. So you were taking...
Yeah, So I said this on Twitter the other day, and nobody really seemed to care for this tweet because I was tossing shade at, Minnesota Vikings fans, which we do love to do on this podcast.
Absolutely love it.
That's becoming another one of our staples of this show.
I like that.
Soup, jerseys, shade at Vikings fans. Yeah. So I said that because the game is here in Minnesota and the entire state is against Philadelphia right now.
Yes.
And because the football gods love to pistol whip Vikings fans right in the face, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win this Super Bowl.
Yeah.
If it was anywhere else, the Patriots would win in a walk.
Sure.
But because it's here in Minneapolis, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl.
You know, and I that might have been my take had you not stolen it first. But it's Tom Brady. Like, and I made this crack in our preview this morning on Zone Coverage that you published, where if you think you can beat Tom Brady with a backup quarterback and just a good defense, Vikings fans, you have another thing coming. It's Tom Brady, and it's the Super Bowl. And unless you're Eli Manning, you're not beating him in the Super Bowl. So I'll take the Patriots. I'll take my odds on that. But I do really enjoy your take on this. And if the Eagles win, I will soak up all of the Schadenfreude that I possibly can tonight, because there are so many Vikings fans that are suddenly Patriot fans after hating them for the previous 18 to 20 weeks of the NFL season.
Tom Brady jerseys reportedly through the roof in sales in the
Did you know that he's been to Minnesota
area.
before? He's been to Minnesota before. He has like an uncle in Minnesota or something. I didn't even read the article. It was a graph article and I heard it was really good.
So sick
but
of hearing about Tom Brady's grandparents' Minnesota roots.
He's
I'm
practically
so
Minnesotan.
Sick of it. It has been driven so far into the ground.
He's pretty much born here. I mean, never mind the fact that he spent his whole life in California.
How did we
before
make
being
it?
drafted by the Patriots?
How did we make it?
And he played at Michigan.
18 seasons of Tom Brady before this surfaced. How did this go so long? Why was this only unearthed now?
Because the Super Bowl is in Minnesota.
God,
so
who had to dig to find this info? Like, you clearly had to. Thank you. Pander to Minnesota so much, you had to dig on Tom Brady to find any kind of Minnesota connection, and you drove it so good into the ground for 2 weeks.
You know his full name is actually Thomas Letul Denord Brady? Did you know that? That's actually his middle name.
Oh, God. You know, as much as we all love to dump on Tom Brady, like, he's going to go down as perhaps the greatest quarterback in the history of the league. And it is genuinely fun to watch him play in the Super Bowl because you've seen so many players just crumble under this pressure, and this is where he thrives. And nothing would please me more than to see him wipe the smirk off of every Eagles fan's face.
God, yes.
But I have to stand by my prediction of the Eagles because...
And I see people in this, you know, nobody's saying this now, of course, because they're suddenly Patriots fans, but people complaining about Tom Brady winning and getting to see the Patriots win yet another Super Bowl. Oh, gosh, this is so terrible. And I understand that because, you know, new things are fun and exciting and all that. But enjoy it. Like, did we get to see Joe Montana in his heyday? No, we didn't. You and I remember Joe Montana with the freaking Chiefs. Like, you know, you're getting to see the greatest of all time, and to a point where you can definitely argue that he is, you know, in how many Super Bowls now that we've watched him. Enjoy it. I mean, you're going to tell your kids about this stuff. Like, he literally is it's going to be really hard for another quarterback to do what he's done. This is his 8th Super Bowl. You could end up with 6 rings. I mean, like, this isn't basketball where a good team can reel off 4 or 5 straight without any kind of issue because there's only 5 players on the court. Like, this is really hard to do. And I don't think enough people are grasping how historic what we're seeing actually is. And they should enjoy it.
Did people complain when Joe Montana kept winning Super Bowls?
I don't think they did. That's just it. Like, I don't... like, that wasn't a thing back then. It was like, I'm so sick of seeing that. And then they had Steve Young follow it right after that. I'm sure there was a few folks that were sick of seeing the 49ers win. But it wasn't like a national epidemic. You know, it wasn't something that, you know, where people went out of their way to crap on the 49ers and how they changed the game with the West Coast offense. Like, that wasn't a thing back then. But now we're so much more tuned in to sports and history, and I feel like fans right now are so much more bitter that it's just like that's where we're at.
If you're wondering why we're ad-libbing about football for an extended period of time, it's because the mailbag we put out this week had crickets in replies
to
to it.
reply to a tweet.
So we're not sorry for ad-libbing with some football talk.
That's what the people want to hear.
Yeah, I will say, do check out the Football Machine on the Zone Coverage podcast network.
Yeah, or anything that we read on Zone. I mean, Arif Hassan kind of leads the way with football. We've got several incredible contributors. So obviously, we mentioned it, I think, 2 weeks ago as well. Yeah. But great work being done at Zone Coverage with the football side of things.
Yes, so do check that out. All right, moving to the Jersey segment.
Here to start the third period. What team is this? It's not Team USA. Well, yes, it is. They've got on new uniforms. They're wearing the logo of the Duck. I've never seen this before.
So because we were in the All-Star show last week, we didn't hit on the jerseys last week, so we have a couple of jerseys to run over this week. The first of which were the Arizona Coyotes.
Uh-huh.
As the Wild play them this week, the Coyotes still pretty much rolling with the same uniforms the new uniforms from a couple years ago now with
the black sleeves,
the black armbands. I almost forgot they did that. God, the Coyotes just
easy to do.
They're so easily forgettable. It's just unreal. But so just thinking of a third jersey and what that would look like. I mean, you got to imagine they dip into the black again, as they have a previous history with black uniforms. Although maybe steer clear of the running Coyote this time.
Yeah, that Greyhound bus looking logo I could really do without. I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at their beautiful original Kachina Coyote jerseys, and I don't think it would be that hard for them to pull it off. They could keep the jersey template they have now, and just kind of invert the colors a little bit, like they did with the running Coyote that looked just awful. I mean, it just looked ridiculous.
In your face, Space Coyote.
But just imagine their jerseys now. Instead of the maroon, you flip it to a black, and you throw the Kachina Coyote on the front. You've got a modernized version with a classic logo. I think that's a good look. I think they can pull it off. Maybe not exactly like that, but I think they can pull it off. Otherwise, I don't know what they... I mean, do they just throw a Houston Aeros logo on that jersey and call it a day at this point? What... I don't even know where they go from here, because it's not like they want to be in Arizona, so why embrace it?
Yeah, that'll be interesting, and perhaps that's a
I'm
good
calling
point.
They're in Houston within 5 years. I'll throw that out there.
I was going to say, perhaps it's kind of interesting to see them maybe not go with a third jersey at all until they kind of get their deal figured out. And as you just so predicted, they'll be in Houston in the not-so-distant future. But, man, that team has just been such an eyesore in this league.
Well, I don't know why they felt the need to get away from the Kachina jerseys. They just one day were like, you know what? We've got this really Southwestern look, and granted, the green jerseys were horrific, but
yeah, they were bad.
Yeah, they were bad, but we've got this really cool Southwestern look. We want to look like a Division II college team that could be anywhere in the country. That's the direction that they went. They went from a jersey where you don't even need the logo. If you just look at the jersey itself, it looks like the Southwest. And it was beautiful because of that. And then they go to a jersey with this weeping dog on it, and it's just like, that could be from anywhere. You can name it any kind of dog. Hell, they could be the German Shepherds with that logo. It doesn't make any sense.
The weeping dog is now iconic because other teams, Timberwolves, have stolen that logo.
I loved how I took the Coyotes logo and literally Microsoft Paint color dumped blue and green into it and said, hey, the Wolves' new logo. 2 days later, they released the logo that looks eerily similar to that.
And then the
Coyotes, that was my favorite thing ever.
The Coyotes were tossing shade at
Yeah, the
Wolves
Coyotes even noticed it too.
Twitter.
They're like, hey, sweet logo. Eyes emoji. Yeah, so it's just too funny how that whole thing went down. And kind of, an unfortunate, thing that the Wolves decided to do, because it's like, what are you thinking? You're copying a logo that really isn't all that good, and it just it doesn't have to be like that,
Yeah. Did you see all the celebrities at the Wolves game yesterday?
I did. The grandmaster of them all, Guy Fieri, was there. That was a lot of fun. Floyd Mayweather was there and managed to not punch a woman for about 3 hours while he was there, as far as we know. So that's a positive, I guess.
As I tweeted from the Charles and the Goalie podcast account, our invite for the Timberwolves game with all the celebrities must have been lost in the mail too.
Did they not know we have a huge bet riding on them? I mean, they just choose to ignore that?
Yeah. So, here's the Coyotes tweet.
That's outstanding. I love that kind of... That's what social media is for with teams. Like, you
good
absolutely
old-fashioned
should.
shade.
Yeah, you should throw some good old-fashioned... Like, it's fun. It's not like they... said your graphic designer should be drugged behind a pickup truck or something like that. Like, they just, made fun of the fact that they totally ripped off their logo.
I did forget to point out, since we're on the Timberwolves here, in the weekly wager segment, that you are ahead here 7-6 in the weekly wager segment.
You did.
And ultimately, you are getting closer and closer to winning the Grandmaster bet of the season here.
Right. Oh, by the way, we didn't actually set a wager for the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, the Superb Owl.
Ah, yes.
What are we wagering here?
Okay, I think I've got it.
All right.
Since this will involve either of us talking about something we don't really preferably like.
Sure.
But we will have to talk about it should we lose. And we'll have to talk about it positively. We have to talk about positive aspects of this subject. So
You're scaring me.
The subject that if the Patriots win, which would make thee the loser, subject that I would have to talk positively about will be the state of Iowa.
Yes, you will talk positively about that.
And the one that I don't know, maybe you and I are thinking the same thing. Maybe not. But
positives of...
The one that I had thought of for Ben was, in the spirit of the Super Bowl Sunday, Ben would have to talk positively about the Minnesota Vikings.
I was going to say Tanya Harding.
What is it with you and Tanya Harding?
What am I missing with Tanya Harding?
She's obsessed with Tanya Harding. I don't know why.
And a lot of people have bad things to say about her, and I just think she could use someone like Rem on her side.
I'm on Team Tanya. I think she's a revolutionary for what she did. Just kidding. I don't... Yeah, no, that would pain me, so let's do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I really hope the Patriots win. I feel there should be like a segment, like a duration of time, or like 10 positive things.
Well, yeah, we could like...
It'd have to be a couple minutes worth.
You
Yeah.
have to say like 10 positive things.
That
5.
sounds very painful.
Okay,
Yeah,
10. Yeah,
10,
that's... Yeah, 10 is...
10 is
God,
very
10
painful.
positive things about
I mean,
the Vikings?
We have a whole
Sweet
week
Christ.
to come up with this.
They made that. What if any of you is?
I don't have...
Yeah.
The problem, like, any positive things I can think of with the Vikings, I can come up with an equally worse, actually, counterpoint as to why I hate them. So,
Yeah. But
all right, fine.
no counterpoints
that's a good idea. That's a good idea. We'll do that. 10 positive things
Oh,
about
my.
about Iowa or the Vikings. Both
Oof.
the opposite of near and dear to our hearts.
Yeah. I mean, I should have said Wisconsin, but
Yeah, you screwed up there.
present company had me
Yeah.
thinking of Iowa.
Yeah.
So
You just want to dive headfirst in the doghouse. That's your problem.
yeah, I do that a lot. Dive right headfirst in the doghouse. I don't even like go sliding in there. I just jump right into the deep end.
Yep.
Don't even try.
You try to
So,
land it like Snoopy and just fall right
Yeah.
through and land it
just like Charlie Brown the football. Just
over and over again.
so no.
All right, so that's a pretty solid wager
Yeah.
because it's very painful.
Then the other jersey on our docket this week
Uh-huh.
was the Dallas Stars.
Boo.
The formerly Minnesota North Stars.
Boo.
I've been teaching Jamie the North Stars history.
Gotcha.
And why they left.
Mm-hmm.
And she does like to make fun of me when we come to the part where they move, and she says, "Oh, look, a tear in your eye."
Well, I think, it's maybe something that I don't think the wounds are going to be healed until the Wild actually wins something, and that's the unfortunate side of things, is that it really was a situation where
we're
they
screwed.
played with fire as far as getting a venue for the team, and because the current ownership and ownership looking to buy the team did not want to play in Met Stadium anymore, or Met Center anymore, sorry. And, when you screw around enough, that's what's going to happen. We almost saw it happen with the Twins, and they dodged a bullet. And same thing with the Vikings, and they dodged a bullet. So, the North Stars are kind of the cautionary tale of don't call a team's bluff when they ask for a new venue, or you will lose them, and you will be sad.
So, imagining a Dallas Stars, a third jersey, and maybe we got a little hint of that yesterday with Retro Night. Not that they would go with the retro jerseys, but that you would see a more predominantly black jersey from the Dallas Stars surface again.
Is this where we bring up the Mooters?
We have to. That is part of. That is another.
It's something that we haven't done enough of since Charlie left. When Charlie was around, Mooters was one of our top gimmicks, and we really haven't been on the Mooters train as much as we should be.
I felt bad the other day when I tweeted out the trending hashtag GIF your birth year, and I tweeted out the GIF from the movie Major League where the pitcher Harris, he takes Jobu's rum and he goes
up your butt, Jobu.
And I tweeted that, and Charlie replied to me with, "Good Lord, you're that young? Geez, we should have called it Giles the goalie and the dad." With how old he felt.
Well, he is a dad.
Oh, maybe he said grandpa. I can't remember.
Maybe it was grandpa.
I have terrible. See, I have this terrible memory because all the useless sports facts that we talked about earlier are just stored up in there.
Right.
So, no, the Dallas Stars jerseys, I got to imagine that they go with a black dominant jersey with the Kelly green and white trim, and
yeah,
I would maybe think that their alternate logo gets used as the crest.
The star, the state of Texas thing.
Is it the state of Texas?
The alternate logo.
I thought it was like
they
really
have a 25 patch now with the state of Texas.
I thought it was kind of similar to the Minnesota Wild, where it's a kind of a circle. It's got Dallas Stars outlining it, and then
yeah. You can kind of see it on NHLuniforms.com.
Like this one.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you're probably right, but I don't know if that would look good on a black jersey with that black ring around it.
Maybe they throw more shade at the Wild and they go with like a Kelly green stripe through the middle of the jersey to accommodate.
Maybe they just go full shade and just throw a little bit of North Stars gold into the jersey, and they're a Kelly green and gold team.
Okay, I want to throw this out because this last week, new Carolina Hurricanes owner Tom Dundee decided that the team is going to incorporate the Hartford Whalers a little more into their...
What? How did I miss this?
I don't know.
Okay.
Have you been under a rock?
Well, I was in California, so basically the same thing, yeah.
So basically, Hartford Whalers stuff started surfacing in the team store, and he noted, the Brass Bonanza made a return, and
that's a positive.
He even noted that they could wear Whalers jerseys at some point. So for a minute, I want to imagine this alternate reality universe in which the Dallas Stars decide to do the exact same thing.
Oh my God!
And wear North Stars jerseys.
There would be buses of people heading down to Dallas to riot.
Greyhounds to Dallas are weirdly popular this week.
Yeah, that American Airlines flight from MSP to Dallas that I've been on a couple of times, that one would be packed.
Just think of
they'd have to crack out the 747s again for that one.
Vitriol. that would come out of this state.
Yeah.
If the Dallas Stars did that.
Yeah, and I think they'd probably be smart to avoid that because nobody there cares about the North Stars anyway.
Except some fool on Twitter who decided to troll Russo Saturday night about it.
Well, yeah. Ooh, thanks for not showing up to the stadium. You lost your team. And Russo's like, that's wonderful. I was in New York at the time. But, you know, on the flip side, the guy isn't wrong because their attendance was pretty awful in the early 90s, so it's not even like, you know, it's not like he doesn't have a point, he does, but again, that's why the team wanted a new venue.
Dallas Stars fans will be quickly to point out that the North Stars is property of the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, no, it's property of the NHL.
The NHL owns that. They just choose to use it at their discretion.
Right.
So, thank you very much. All right, that's the Dallas Stars jerseys. Before we go full on rage over the North Stars and whatnot, we seem to be pretty convinced that black.
Yeah.
Or maybe
I
just
think so.
another Kelly Green. I don't know.
Yeah,
Because it's Dallas, I'm sure they'll just try to work a way into another football-looking jersey.
No kidding. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they did take from that first logo that they used, the last North Stars logo, if you will. I wouldn't be shocked if they played on that a little bit. And if they did whatever, like, Minnesotans don't really feel all that particularly close to that jersey, or to that logo anyway.
Holy moly.
So,
Royal Rumble presented by PlayStation 2.
Yep.
Wow.
Believe it.
We are really going back in time here, folks.
This is 2003 Rumble that we're watching right now, so that's why.
Wow. All right. That can probably do it for us. Did you want to air some grievances? No?
What?
About what?
You came all the way down here and...
You don't have any grievances to air with me?
About what? When you cried at the Honda Center? Was it the Honda Center?
Yes, the Honda Center. Arrowhead Pond?
Yep.
I mean, you can air out whatever grievances you have with me.
Ross already did for like a half an hour one day, so it's kind of fair.
I mean, you are owed a spot to air some grievances with me. I know you have them.
Of course.
They're there.
They're there, but I'm just throwing on the spot.
I mean, you can go with the Honda Center one, and then we can come back to more if there are. This isn't.
There's more.
All right. Well, tell the fine folks.
Tell the fine folks. Oh my God, do I talk close to it?
Yeah. All right, so Jamie's going to air some grievances about Giles here. Tom is just
Excited.
beside himself with excitement here.
So, it's a nice day in California, and we're at the Honda Center. And they're going to bring out Paul Correa, and I forgot what's the other guy's name.
Timu Solani.
Timu, or I'm just going to call him Timu because I can't
That
say
works,
that. Yeah, right? And they get out there, they're doing their thing, they're talking. And then they get to the point where the owner points up at the banner, at Timu's banner, and said, "Wouldn't it be nice if we had another one to join?" All of a sudden, I see this one teardrop start streaming from Giles' eye. And I start to I'm like, oh, this is so exciting. It's going to happen today. And then, no, they just took it away. They're like, oh, but not today. And Giles, I could just see his heartbreak. And then me as a girlfriend, I'm getting defensive. I'm like, what is this? Getting angry.
Was it like The Simpsons with Ralph Wiggum where you could pinpoint the exact moment?
Yeah.
Like his heart broke
Yes, it just cracked right there.
You can literally.
Yeah,
And I'm
slow
like,
motion,
oh.
yes. Right there is where his heart broke.
So I would say, yeah, that's my biggest grievance. I felt really bad for you, though.
Because I've never shown that kind of an emotion with you.
Yeah, never. Nope. But when it comes to Paul Correa, whoa. Watch out.
Girls just don't understand the emotional tie that Ben had to sports.
But I also learned a lot about Larry and your attachment to Larry, what's his last name?
Larry Fitzgerald.
Oh, yeah.
Huge attachment to Larry Fitzgerald.
Well, he's a good St. Paul boy.
Yeah, I felt like I should leave the room when he starts talking about him.
Yeah, yesterday we did the Giles history with Larry Fitzgerald.
Ah.
And she looked more appalled than anything. Actually, it might have been a concern,
No, it was a
show that
concerned
kind of an
look.
affection for
a football player.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's right up there with Paul Correa, I would say.
Well,
Paul's up there. Like Larry's up there too, but
Paul's in rarefied air.
Yeah.
the other day she so I have some picture frames up on the wall, and
Sure.
I have some friends in one, and then there's one with her, and then I have a photo of Paul Correa that's signed that I got for Christmas long ago.
Right.
And then I have a little mini hockey stick of Paul Correa from when we went out there for Hall of Fame night that I put right under it.
Sure.
The other day she goes, "Why are there 2 things of Paul Correa on this wall and only one of me?"
Well, see, here's the deal. Paul has been in his life for decades, and you not quite as much. So Paul still has a little bit of an edge. Just saying.
I will say in my ever so brief defense of my emotion at Hall of Fame night that I thought I was going to finally get inner peace after all these years. Just like after Harry Potter kills Voldemort in the end and they go 19 years later and they go, his scar hasn't hurt in 19 years. Just kind of like that feeling. No more pain.
Fair.
Yeah. So
Fair.
there you go. I had to work in a Harry Potter reference.
Of course.
We have to work one of those or Batman in. Ooh, next time we have Dave Schwartz on, I have to yell at him about his Batman takes.
Val Kilmer?
Good luck to Dave in the Olympics, by the way.
Yeah, well, yeah, that should be fun. Looking forward to seeing that this week.
So, no, that can definitely wrap up this podcast, and
yeah, without a doubt,
that is a good way to close it. We will definitely have Jamie back again to air some more grievances, and I'm sure at some point we'll have Roz air a little bit more too.
She got so much airtime on the Festivus show.
Maybe we could do that in an off-season podcast.
Maybe.
Since the Wild are seemingly going to be done pretty quickly, whether it's mid-April or by the end of April. We're going to have a lot of time to kill.
There's going to be a lot of off-season this year. That's very true.
We'll bring them back.
Off-season's going to be 2 weeks shorter than even usual.
Yes. So, I know that will do it for us. We will be back next week. Definitely less football talk.
Right.
You can follow Ben and I on Twitter at Ben Remington, at Giles Farrell. We write for a website called Zone Coverage, which is zonecoverage.com. Ben is the resident hockey columnist. He brings you the finest takes. And I provide, more features and whatnot.
You actually do all the hard work.
Dipping into the high school category.
Sure.
I hope everyone are enjoying those articles. And the podcast can also be found there, zonecoverage.com/wild. You can also find this otherwise fine podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes. We have a YouTube channel. Search Giles and the Goalie. We do fun pregame, postgame videos there. Or maybe not so fun if you're doing recaps of blowouts, like both you and I have now done.
Yeah.
And if you do follow us on iTunes, drop us an iTunes rating. We do like those. I think that's it. I think I got it all.
I can do it.
Yeah. So that will wrap it up for us this week, and we will see you next week.
Later.
It's not resiliency. You're making it sound like we're good. That's all. I'm done.